Hi everybody. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to paint different brush strokes that are going to make up our leaves, fillers, and flowers. I'm set the camera up a little bit differently so you can see, hopefully see my movements better, because sometimes when it's directly above, my hand actually blocks the shot. And I want you to really see how I angled my brush, how the brush stroke looks as I'm making it. So the first stroke we're going to learn is the one stroke. And this can be for a leaf or a flower petal. So what we do first is, after, I want you to practice some really thin lines like this. Get them nice and thin. And then we're going to start with a thin line, and then we're going to put pressure on our brush, and then we're going to bring it up to a nice fine point again. So I'll show you again. It's thin line, pressure, thin line, thin line, pressure, thin line. And then the more pressure you put, the fatter the leaf will be. So thin line, I'll press all the way down. Bring it up slowly to a point. And I find that when you're bringing it up, especially on the larger, fatter leaves, it's best to do it nice and slow. And you want to take your time. Like that. Okay, so again, we've got, if you want to make a smaller leaf, you're going to do the thin line, and then you're just not going to press as hard. See? And then you can get it even smaller. Like this. This is really nice for some really delicate leaves. Oh goodness, this is so meditative, you guys. It's kind of hard to talk when I'm in that meditative, oh my God, I can't talk. It's kind of hard to talk when I'm in that meditative flow state, because I just get so into what I'm doing. I get like, it's like the world drops away. I've made pages of leaves. I just love making them. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is a 2-stroke. So for doing a leaf, what we want to do is we're going to start just like up above. We got this, and we can make like this line. I'm going to make a line across, okay? So we're going to start at this part here, start at the thin stroke, and then we're going to start putting pressure, and then bring it up. And then we're going to go back to this line, and we're going to add pressure, and then again, bring it up. So the movement kind of has me going. When I do the top part, I'm kind of pushing my brush up a little bit, and then the bottom, I'm pushing it down a little bit. So I'm going to go up, and then I'm going to go down. And you can leave a line of white paper there so it kind of looks like a highlight. So let's do this a couple more times. So we're going to do thin line and then up, and then a thin line and go down. And then you can also don't quite meet. Some people like to do their leaves like that. So I want you to practice these 1- and 2-stroke leaves until they feel very comfortable and fluid to you. And don't forget, all this practice is just building up that muscle memory in your hand, which is going to make painting a lot easier. So I wanted to show you that with this 1 stroke, actually, let's get some pink for a flower color. we can just thin line, pressure, thin line, pressure, thin line, and I'm gonna turn my paper to make it easier for me to paint in the direction that I am most comfortable painting in. Now with this, all you gotta make sure is that this part of your leaf is pointing towards the center. Then you can add maybe a darker color. And if your petals are still wet, they'll bleed into it, which creates a really nice blend. You'd have to start with a wetter brush for your petals. So that was a very simple flower. This is the one we're going to be starting with in our first flower lesson. So just by learning that one stroke, you already know how to make a one-stroke leaf, and you know how to make this type of flower petal. So you can also make a fatter leaf or petal by kind of painting with the side of your brush. Okay, so this could either be, you know, fat leaves, or it could be, you can even make it like, do them a little bit smaller. Do smaller ones like this, and now you've got a really cute 5-petal flower. And you can see you can have a nice point to your petal. You can make them a little broken, which actually looks a little more natural. And these are still wet, so I'm gonna actually add some Payne's Gray to the middle, but I have a little bit less water and a little more pigment. So that way it won't completely flood the petal. I want to touch the tips. And it's going to bleed out really nice and look very pretty. So for your leaves, you can also make them long. So I'll just do it about here. You can make them long like this. You can kind of put a little movement into them by not making them perfectly straight, which makes it more interesting. You can create really tiny, thin. You can even go from top down. So practice doing from the top down and from the bottom up, and see which feels better to you, what you like the look of. And you can even make a note that this was top down, this was bottom up. You can make really tiny leaves. And just barely putting pressure. I'm doing a thin line and then pressing. And then I'm going to turn it. Be careful not to put my hand in that. And remember, the leaves don't all have to be exactly the same. In nature, that very rarely happens. So it looks a little bit more natural when they don't look the same like that. So some of the strokes for the flowers, I'll get some red on my paintbrush. We're going to start making a C stroke. So this is a C stroke, and it looks similar to a letter C, but it doesn't quite go all that way around. You can just do tiny ones like this. And then I also want you to practice going the other direction. You can make them going this way, going this way. This is just gonna build up your brushstroke skills. And one of the things I want you to learn and practice is doing a C stroke like this. We're gonna start thin, and then we're gonna press down a little bit, and then we're gonna bring it back up around thin. So thin, press, thin, thin, press, thin. And then you can try it the other way, like going up. So take your time so you can get back up to that point. And then you can try it this way. Then you can make them a little bigger. You just make them bigger by adding some more pressure. And then go in the other direction. And then I want you to practice using the side of your brush and kind of making like wavy lines. This is going to be for the outer rose edges to make them look a little bit more natural. Okay, so practice doing those in all different directions. And now I'm going to teach you the S stroke. And this looks similar to an S, except it's not so obviously an S. So start from going bottom up. You can make them thicker like this, really thin. Try bringing them down. That can make for interesting leaves. See how they're kind of in like an S shape? So it just brings more movement to your pieces and it makes it more interesting to look at. And don't forget to practice those very thin lines. And when we make our leaves, we're gonna make kind of a curved line, and I keep my wrist straight and I move it with my arm. That helps me to get a more smooth line going. Okay, I want you to practice all of these strokes, your 1 stroke, your 2 stroke, your C strokes, your S strokes, and do a couple of pages and get that muscle memory working in your hands, and maybe put on some music. I like to kind of create a little ritual for myself. I'll come into my studio, I'll light a candle, I put on some nice music. Sometimes it's 70s, 80s, today, whatever. And a lot of times it's this group called Emancipator. You can find them on Spotify and their music is phenomenal. All right, guys, go ahead and practice. light your candles, play your gorgeous music, and just let yourself get lost. It's just so much fun. All right, next up, we are going to paint some really pretty leaves. I'll see you there.